Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we're talking about the Detroit Pistons. So my coworker just put out a nice little podcast, Hoops Hype podcast, Michael Scotto, he had with James L. Edwards, and talked about a few guys that are on the Pistons radar. We're gonna go through each one and talk about it, and then we'll go from there. So what they're hearing specifically is Malik Monk, Tobias Harris, Miles Bridges, and Nick Claxton are all people that they're interested in. Today we're specifically looking at Tobias Harris and Miles Bridges. We'll have other videos specifically on Malik Monk and Claxton, as they are kind of like different. So the reason why this is different is that Tobias Harris and Miles Bridges could actually be like sign and trade candidates. So looking ahead of the offseason, Detroit could have up to $60 million in cap space if they decline Evan Fournier's team option and let go of Troy Brown. Everyone's looking for them to do what the Houston Rockets did a summer ago and spend all their salary cap space available, but on a cheap deal, like on cheap short-term deals. Not cheap short-term deals, but on short-term deals. So from what I've heard, plan A is not to go the Houston route and spend all the money they have in free agency. The first plan they want to do is not that route. It's actually, they will look to sign a free agent like Tobias Harris or Miles Bridges, two guys that will certainly be on their radar heading into the offseason, as they are players that they could get and use the remaining salary cap to potentially acquire a player in trade. Whether it's Detroit or other teams around the league, they're all monitoring playoff teams that fail to meet expectations and could either make a change to shake things up, or a star player on one of those teams becomes disgruntled and wanting out. And I really do think that when you look, is it more than obvious that a guy like Tobias Harris is making $39 million, and I've actually seen Tobias Harris's father's slideshow. So agents like Tobias Harris's father, who is Tobias Harris's agent, they create like these slideshows with like analytics and data that they send to teams to kind of like sell them on why you should sign this player for X amount of money. And Tobias Harris is a max player, or at least in Tobias Harris's father's eyes. So if I'm the Detroit Pistons, I'm going after Miles Bridges. I don't care about like what's going on behind the scenes and all that stuff. It's if it wasn't fine, he wouldn't be playing in the NBA. I'm just putting it that way. I'm not saying it was right or wrong. I have no comment on that. That's not my lane. I don't believe in hitting a woman or touching anyone, so that's mine. But he came back after a year off, dropped 21 points in 37 minutes tonight, 46% from the field, 35% from 3, 7.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. And Miles Bridges, for a guy who took off a year, I mean, one might argue that he didn't even miss a step while he was gone. And he's still one of the most athletic guys in the league. He's 6'7" with like a 7-foot wingspan, and he can absolutely fly through the air. He's got a great frame at nearly 230 pounds, and he's kind of a raw ball handler, and he shoots at a high volume. And he's improved. I think he had a down year last year in terms of like shaking off the rust. But he clearly, that the year that he had before being basically gone for a full season was not a fluke. And for me, when we look at it like this, I think, it's not a fluke for Miles Bridges, as we haven't seen him in the playoffs, but he's a guy that I think has been more consistent. While Tobias Harris this year, his points went up from 14 back to the 17 he had similar to the year before. But Tobias Harris, he's a guy who is really a third option on a championship team, maybe even a fourth option. He's going to be a guy who shoots high, 48%, 17 points, 35% from 3, about just under 7 rebounds, 3 assists, about a steal, and just under a block a night. I mean, for me, I've always thought that, this makes sense when you look at how the NBA is going. I think if you look at the two options, Miles Bridges is the guy I would go with. Why? So yeah, if I was the Pistons, I'd target Miles Bridges. Plus, Miles Bridges is a kid from, I know Tobias is from Kentucky, I believe, but Miles, pretty sure he's a Michigan boy. Yeah, Flint, Michigan. So I think there's maybe a better chance you get a hometown discount from Miles.